And welcome back to the Engage 8 podcast here on this Thursday night where Miami is currently beating up on a FCS team, Bethune Cookman, 34-0 as of whatever time it is. I think it's like 8:58, but
8-9. There you go.
Same thing, same difference. Yeah. How's it going, Robby? How's your Thursday evening looking?
Day off, got a little golf in.
Okay.
Doing good, man. We're ready to cover, ready. Let's put it this way. I'm ready to get through this weekend so that we can, look forward to
To week
four.
four.
But hey, we
Yeah,
got
there
matchups we're gonna talk about, I guess.
So maybe interesting. Like I think there's some more interesting, like less power teams like in this week. But I mean, it's nothing like anything to be excited about whatsoever. Like if this were a weekend where you wanted to like go up north or take a trip, if you're a college football fan, this is the week. Go take your vacation.
And absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, there's really nothing to like watch out for, to be honest. Like we're trying to be as positive as possible. We have a couple
Hey, man, we
matchups
gotta
that
take every week seriously.
yeah.
We're just like a player.
I mean,
man.
who knows? Maybe it's just upset crazy and like it's just the greatest weekend of college.
Week. It's a trap.
It is a trap. Yeah.
But I guess everyone's gonna be, the national stage. Well, I don't know if it's actually on a national stage, but the whole country's gonna be watching the boys in green and white for sure.
Yeah.
So
boys in green and white. Yeah, let's get into that game. So I think it's 5 o'clock on Peacock.
Yep.
No, yeah, little Peacock action. Michigan State hosts the number 8 team in the country, according to the AP Top 25, the Washington Huskies, with Michael Penix, Heisman contender, my opinion, the best receiving room in the country. Robby, what do you think the trajectory of this game looks like?
Oh, it's gonna go one of two ways, but both ways are not gonna end in an MSU dub. This is a game where either D'Antonio and the new staff either lights a fire under these guys. They've let this whole tragedy, we'll call it, just light a fire under them, and they come out and they give this Washington there's nothing. Maybe I think a successful game for the MSU defense would be holding this guy under 300 yards, not allowing a 100-yard receiver, which is very hard. There's three. We've talked about this before. 3 legit wide receiver 1 caliber guys on this team, all on one roster.
Bama could use one of them.
If there was trades in college football, man, this would be the year we would see Bama throwing the dog.
Dallas Turner for
Dallas Turner
for James Polk. Yeah.
Straight up. But yeah, no, I think this is a good test though, because I mean, if you like it or not, I mean, before this Mel Tucker stuff, MSU was looking pretty good. They were starting off hot. Their offense was developing, and it needs to be talked about more. But Noah Kim has actually looked very good. He's put up pretty darn good numbers considering, the rest of the Big Ten. I think he is the passing leader in the Big Ten, just above JJ. So that's legit, man. You can't let that go under the radar. Other than that, though, the freshman receivers are kind of stunned, or the stars. Antonio Gates got his first touchdown last week, and Tyrell Henry had arguably the greatest catch of all season
in week 1.
Game number 1. So these guys, they're looking to get hot too. But yeah, it's just going to be a battle of how far are they going to let Penix? Is this going to be another just Heisman, adding to the Heisman reel for Penix's 2023 season, which, by the way, I don't know if you saw this little snippet, but it needs to be shouted out. The story about Penix after he tore his ACL twice and what he would do during those seasons. He said, I don't know if you read this. Did you read this?
I did not see anything about this.
So he said that he would wait for his roommate to leave the room, and this man would drop to the ground and just sob. Like he was in such a dark place. And to think that now, because I don't know if people remember this, but I think it was 2020.
It was the COVID season where Penix was really good.
Off for Indiana. Just went off. Busted his ACL, I think, against Ohio State, which was one of his best games.
Yeah, because that Ohio State game was close, and then they ended up being like a
Yeah.
That
I
ended up
mean,
being
this
an
kid
Ohio State win, but
busted his
it was back and forth until he went down.
yeah. He almost beat that Ohio State team, which that Ohio State team was in the national title game.
Right. And I mean,
Uh,
that Ohio State team was good, and Trey Sermon came out of nowhere and then ended up
out of nowhere, man. So yeah, this is a kid that just deserves the spotlight. Like we have been talking about him for 2 years, but remember where this kid came from. This is
right.
quite the
Because I mean,
story.
if you remember talking about him 3 seasons ago, like people are pretty optimistic of this kid being good for Indiana in 2021.
Yeah,
And he ended up playing really bad to start out
really bad.
and then ended up getting hurt again. And then when I saw that he transferred to Washington, I'm like, is he even going to start at Washington?
Right, like that was the
And then
huge
he led Washington to a great season last year, and they're doing
yeah,
great things so far. And it's only making them receivers look better too. I mean, those receivers are already talented. I think if you put, Carson Beck throwing the ball to them guys, I think they'd still be like quality performers, but
absolutely.
not to the degree that
Yeah,
Penix wants those guys.
these guys are more than grateful that to have number 9 throwing them the rock.
Yeah. I guess my take about this game, I think Washington wins, obviously. I mean, there's that slight possibility that Michigan State just pulls out a win, but I just think Washington's offensive firepower, like they should score like at least over 35 each game this season. Like if they don't, the only games did they play Utah this year?
I believe so.
Yeah, like that would be the only team, only because Washington's run game is I mean Nixon's all right, but like they're not going to do anything crazy with the running attack. And I mean Michigan State, this team's like you said, it's a very young team. Obviously, there's guys like Snow and Halliday that are like, considered the veterans on the team, but like this
Right.
defensive back room is very young. I don't think any of them are draft eligible
No.
even going into the end of this season. So it's going to be a great test for that. I think, with everything obviously that happens and going on during this week and all the stories and different sides, different perspectives, what the media is putting out there, like it's got to be tough in that locker room, man. Just knowing that like you came to play for this guy and then now he's just in a bunch
Yeah.
of different situations. But
That there's going to be so many scouts in attendance for this game, not even just maybe in attendance, but just tuning into this
yeah,
game. So like this is such an opportunity for these guys, and I think that that's hopefully what this coaching staff is emphasizing, that they need to just let the focus be like results don't matter. Let personal play. We obviously game plan is going to be shaken up because it's an entire off season of planning that has now gone down the window. This is a
right,
whole coaching style. I'm fully expecting that D'Antonio is probably going to have a bigger voice than we think because they wouldn't
right,
have just brought him in just to be there. Like this guy is fully he's not that far removed from the program, A, and B, and we noted this last week too. A lot of these guys that are still at MSU were recruited there by Mark
right.
D'Antonio.
Yep.
So there's a relationship there. There's not a problem with this. This is something that he's going to be a bigger voice, and so hopefully that's
Right.
the
And
message.
honestly, I don't think this, if Mel Tucker ends up, if the investigation does not go his way and he ends up getting fired, I don't think it's necessarily going to impact him on this season. I think they're going to kind of still be like what people expect them to be, a bowl team, maybe get 8 wins. But I think it's something that, it's going to affect this recruiting class, going to affect over the off season. And I mean, we'll see. The coaching carousel seems to get crazy every year. There'll probably be some dominoes. I don't think Michigan State starts a domino effect, but I think if there's another job where, like, if it's a Texas A&M or another big job, then we'll
Right.
see. We'll see a domino effect. But I mean, this is the first coach. I mean, he's technically not gone, but we're
Yeah.
assuming that he's not going to be coming back.
Right.
So, I mean, it's a very good job. I mean, upper
Yeah.
half, in my opinion, upper half Big Ten job,
Yeah, man, great facilities
yeah,
and still a great reputation there. I mean, they
right. Yeah. I
won the
mean,
Rose Bowl less than 10 years
and this
ago.
team's like capable, like they've made the college football playoff before. Obviously, it's a little bit
Yeah.
different circumstances, but I
So,
mean, the transfer portal can do a lot of things for you, to say the
and
least.
and tune into the last episode to see who we predict, who we think, is going to be
Yeah.
interview room. Tune in. We threw a couple names around.
Yes. All right. Any other thoughts about the Washington Michigan State game?
Got nothing.
Me either. Like I said, very dead week. I think this next game's interesting though. Tennessee and Florida, 7 o'clock on ESPN. I'm not the highest on this Vols team right now. I think defensively they're all right, but I mean offensively their strongest thing has been their run game, and I don't think that's a really good thing going into the SEC season, especially with the quarterback that they have and how much potential people like to
Right.
talk about that he has.
Now, a lot of Michigan fans could have told these Tennessee fans, "We told you so," but they didn't want to listen, and now they're here sitting week 2. They haven't lost, but Joe Milton is not. This guy was
If you watched any of that Tennessee Austin P game last week, like it started out very ugly, and I mean Joe Milton's just it's tough. Like it's kind of like almost like what we talked about Milrow, on the reaction episode. Like this kid, like good arm, great arm, doesn't can't put it in the right place. And I mean,
oh,
honestly, Graham Mertz has not looked bad for this Florida team, and I don't really know how much this Tennessee secondary has improved. They haven't really gotten tested yet, so
right.
I think this could be a trap game.
This is very well could be a trap game, and we're just waiting for Florida rushing attack to explode, and that's just only going to make Graham Mertz better. I think this team got a little bit embarrassed against Utah, but hey, that's week 1.
And I mean, I think Utah is a way more quality team. Obviously, we just know the quality of the Pac-12 too, and there's not too much expectations at Florida right now. I think Napier, like obviously Dan Mullen, like he got recruits and stuff, but like they were not like they had one good season with Trask, Pitts, and Tony, and then other than that, it's kind of been like a dud. I mean, they've played games close, like they seem to play close against Alabama every single time they play them, but I don't know. I think this game really could get Florida's program in the right direction if they were to come out with the win. However, I don't think they win. I think Tennessee still has too much offensive weapons, really. And I think their O-line still pretty solid, too. So I think they can do enough. This Florida defense also is like not scary. Like Utah, they were able to allow Utah to put up points on them without a top 6 quarterback in the Pac-12, which is basically like a top 12 quarterback in the country at this point. So, I mean,
I'm with you though. I don't think Tennessee loses, but I do think that this is a game where
if they were to lose,
there's
a lot of
there's an assessment that needs to be made.
Yeah,
This is essentially Joe Milton's test. I would call that, and this is also Graham Mertz's test for NFL scouts to see, okay, can this guy? This is a big atmosphere. I believe this game is at.
It's at the Swamp. It's at the Swamp.
In the Swamp.
But still, I mean, the Swamp's an amazing college football venue. So.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just, no, Graham Mertz, I think he shows out, but I just don't think he has.
I think also
has a team
Florida's got like one of the biggest interior D lines in the country. And I mean, like Small and Wright, like how much can they really bounce to the outside? Like this Florida defense ain't bad. Like if you saw the second half in that Utah game, like they were looking a lot better. And I mean, I didn't catch their game last week, but still, like I mean, they obviously came out with the win because it says 1-1. But I couldn't tell you who they played. I think it was. Let me take a look real quick. Any other thoughts on Florida or Tennessee?
I'm excited. I'm excited for this game. This is about the biggest game I think all week. So.
It's prime time on ESPN. They try to make it the biggest. Yeah, they try to make it the biggest game of the week.
Maybe we see Joe Milton masterclass. Who knows?
I mean, he's had games like in his career where he just looks great. It's just not a consistent.
Fans are sitting on the edge of their seat waiting for this thing, and man, when he pops off, it is so. It's the most fun football to watch. It's the most that with that kid and that arm, dude. It's truly generational, but. Nobody's gonna care if you can't hit the receivers in the hands. Who is it? Who did they lose to? Or who did they beat? I should say.
I can't find it, to be honest with you.
Shut up! Come on, we got to give this. People are probably screaming through their screen.
They're probably like, "Why do you not know who Florida beat?"
Oh gosh!
I can't.
Where's Utah? There's Utah. Okay, then I go to Utah, and then I go to Florida. Come on. Who did they lose to?
It's obviously no one notable. Like, I don't want to be that guy, but obviously it was.
MCN.
Oh, yeah.
McNeese? Cowboys?
Maybe. I'm not sure. Like I said, very.
That's a beyond. Man, I've been watching college football for a long time. I have never seen that. That was a 49-7 win. Mertz threw for 193. Johnson ran for 119.
Maybe it was just the game to get the running game going.
There you go. Or maybe it was another Bishop Sycamore because I don't know if that's a real college.
Yeah.
Sorry if there's any McNeese student listening, but I never heard of you. Never.
Maybe they're the first Division 1 team to schedule against like an NAIA school or something.
There we go.
Yeah. All right. Moving into more serious matters, we got at 3:30 on ESPN, we got North Carolina versus Minnesota. Drake May not looking like anything like a Heisman candidate so far in his first two games. Obviously, the game against Appalachian State really didn't pose too much of a threat. Shout out Omar Hampton. Kid's gross, but they got two good backs there in British Brooks and Hampton. So that's something to see. I mean, North Carolina always has offensive weapons. I think defensively they need to get a little bit better, obviously, after last week. But I mean, they had a strong showing against a pretty good quarterback. I don't think McAlligness is going to necessarily pose a big threat if you're
no. But Minnesota's just they're a gritty team, man. PJ Fleck is gonna hope to row the freaking boat against this team. Hopefully, take Drake May just off the map completely. Me personally, I don't think it happens. I don't
Me
see
either. I mean, I think North Carolina is going to come away with the win here. I think
that is good.
I think this is also just a game to get Drake May going too. Like, I mean, you look.
He's not going to go and do it twice. He's not going to have back-to-back weeks. That's not Drake May.
Yeah, and I mean, if it is, then obviously there's going to be a lot of questions asked in Chapel Hill, but I just don't see that happening. Like,
no, we're forgetting that this kid really is like, yeah, he might be a little spotty.
And I mean, he had a couple dud games last year too, but still put up phenomenal stats. And I mean, they came out with wins in those games, and I think this is just a game to really get them going before they start in the ACC. So no, I don't know anything about Tez Walker and McCollum still. So he's still without his two biggest weapons. Paysour has obviously been the leading receiver for this team, has really stepped up. But
when those two come back, that truly is going to be huge. And it really is why probably he hasn't gotten off to the fastest of starts, but can't make excuses, man. It's like
you got to go out and play there with whoever you got. Cool thing about Minnesota, they have a freshman running back named Darius Taylor, Walled Lake Western. Yeah, very local kid. He was the Big Ten Freshman of the Week last week. Yeah. Shout out to him, man. It's nice seeing kids that like. So just to go a little bit like in the realm of why I really know Darius Taylor is obviously the Michigan, the D zone. You know, I'm assuming you know what that is. Like, I've seen a ton of things about that kid. Drew Viato, his quarterback's also on that team too. So hey, maybe he gets out there if McAllinis just plays that terrible. So
that would be sweet. No, yeah, man. Shout out to all these Michigan high school football kids just balling out.
I'm pretty sure Deshaun Lee from Belleville is a starter on Iowa now as well. So
yes, he is. Yes, he is.
That'd be sweet. You know, when Iowa goes and wins the Big Ten championship, you know, it's gonna be sweet seeing that.
No, quarterback and
but they'll probably do good against Western Michigan.
Absolutely.
Maybe it's a trap game. We'll see.
Every week. This is the week of trap games.
Yeah.
Speaking of them, little Mississippi
State, LSU. Man, we're giving ESPN so much love talking about all the games. We got the 12 o'clock, the 3:30, the 7. Probably talk about the 10:30 game a little bit, but
ESPN needs to just buy us out. We're the next
yeah, they should just have us going on a 4-game. Just put us in the studio. We'll talk about all these teams all day and what happened.
Come on.
All right. So Mississippi State comes out with a close win against, a pretty good Pac-12 quarterback in Jaden DeLora and an overtime victory. Will Rogers, I swear he's been on this team for like 4 years now. But I mean, Mississippi State, they gave this LSU team a bit of trouble last year, if I remember correctly. I think Malik Neighbors, like, he was one of the big reasons. I think he ended up having a huge touchdown grab or something like that. And this was a very entertaining game last year. Obviously, it was early in the season as well. But I don't know. I think I think this is going to be a good test for the LSU DBs after what happened in week 1. Obviously, they play Grambling State, and like that doesn't really
And
matter.
you have a guy, and I know he is a different category now. We can put him in that elite category at 1% of college football receivers. But when you have a guy literally signaling to the other side of the field that he has a cornerback on him, when you have announcers saying that when 22 is on 4, the ball's going to 4 and it's going to be a touchdown, when that is being said, you know you have something completely embarrassing.
Right. I mean, Keon Coleman, he might be the second best receiver in college football.
Absolutely.
So,
Easily. And that's behind a guy who's probably he could be the first overall draft pick.
yeah.
Like is at that level, but
If
comes
he
right behind.
continues what he did in week 2, he could be a Heisman.
And these
Like,
and Mississippi State doesn't have a guy like that, but still, like you're playing college football, man. You're starting in the SEC. You
yeah,
should let that happen.
right.
Not
And
be.
I also think that this LSU team is going to do better offensively. I mean, I
I
think
do.
last week was a great like showing, like, hey, like we're going to be on the right track and be just fine.
Yep.
I'm a little concerned if they can have anyone other than Daniels run on this team, to be honest with you.
It's very, very true.
I think if LSU
You
is going to
cannot be taking
want to
risks.
have a shot at finishing in the top 10 SEC championship, you like, I mean, this team still can technically have college football playoff aspirations still. And I believe they all think they're good enough in that locker room. I think the talent's good enough in most places. Like, this is still a team that if they could get things going, man, it could get them a long way and
Jaden
have a
Daniels is really good. Like this is a guy that is very experienced in college football. I think this is his 5th year.
right because he
Been thrown
played
around
well.
draft boards pretty much since he's been draft eligible. So like this isn't a guy to sleep on. It's just like I think LSU has a little bit of a locker room problem, and that is probably stems from their coach who loves, to run his mouth, and everyone else thinks on that team they can run their mouth. Maybe a couple coaching decisions too, the way they use Harold Perkins, but like you
Right.
said,
I
talent's
think
there.
like if you assess all the talent at LSU, like they're definitely like a top 5 team talent wise in the country. Like I don't think there's any
100%.
doubting
100%.
that.
This is a team that kind of is actually playing out the narrative that we were putting on Florida State and Colorado. Two teams who have unbelievable talent, but it's whether or not can they all play together. I think this is a team that's struggling to get on that, but like you said, last week was a great showing that these guys actually can mesh together. And yes, it's against an opponent that really doesn't matter, but those are always huge confidence builders.
It's
And
still a football game. It goes on your record.
exactly. And it's like you're still competing. Everyone is playing their absolute hearts out. And so therefore if you can show that and you can have that little bit of confidence, going into a next week, that momentum builds. And hopefully it can build and they don't have enough
And Florida State just might be the best team in college football too. Like
right, exactly. Like we don't know yet, but it's sure as heck looking like it. Like that very well could be like, oh yeah, like that actually isn't a bad loss because this team might just go out.
because we all thought like I thought LSU losing to Florida State last year. Like I thought that was going to be like Florida State's going to finish the season 7-5. Like that's not the greatest loss. And Florida State ended up being a pretty good team last year, and they only got better from that. And I mean LSU, like yeah, they were leading in that game for a little bit and they were in it. And then Florida State kind of just had a couple kids, just like decide like, hey, we're better than you. We're
Owens
just
decided that, any quarterback that lines up in front of me, I'm just gonna call his number.
yeah.
That's I've never seen something like that in a football game in my entire life. Like
The-
visibly, some guys like they kind of give the nod to their coach, like, "Hey, like this guy is jumping around, yelling, getting
yeah.
this guy, and goes up and makes an absolute highlight reel play, unbelievable." But to get into because the next segment we got is our 2 upset picks. I'm gonna foreshadow right now what's coming up. I'm taking the Bulldogs. Bulldogs over the Tigers. Lock that in. Heard it here first. You heard it here.
Definitely a little bit more favorable after seeing the first 2 games because, I think like if Mississippi State's going to win this game, like obviously they're a very air raid team and Will Rogers has plenty of experience. Like he probably has over like 1,000 career pass attempts. Like this is a game where, yeah, Mississippi State's a tough matchup for LSU because they can throw the ball and like that's really just it. Like in LSU, like they can't run it. like Daniels is gonna have to throw it, and I mean they got very talented players to receive the ball in Baton Rouge, but this game's also at home for Mississippi State too, which
That's
is
why, and that is the deciding factor why I think that LSU, it was at home, the environment's going to be rocking, everything's going to be in favor. If Mississippi State can get off to a fast start, they're taking this football game.
yeah.
But lock that in. We'll see. We're giving ourselves 2 picks this week because we want to keep this streak riding. We're back to back, have picked the upsets. This one's a little tougher to pick, but
yeah. We're gonna go with for my first upset. We got another team in the SEC losing. I mean, technically that Mississippi State versus LSU games, 2 SEC teams, but a team that's a SEC team that's favored. Obviously, that's kind of the criteria for the upsets of the week. I got BYU beating Arkansas. I don't think Arkansas is that good. I don't think KJ Jefferson really poses that much of a threat. And Caden Slovis and them boys at BYU, they're looking solid this year. So, I mean, Arkansas blew this game last year. I don't even think Arkansas has a chance to blow this game. I think BYU is going to come out slinging it a little bit and getting things going. So that's my first pick, man.
I love that pick. And the more and more I think about it, it's just like, yeah, that makes so much. It makes a ton of sense. It makes a ton of sense.
And I mean, like, maybe I'm wrong. Obviously, there's always that potential that I'm wrong, but
I guess KJ Jefferson might be able to show up one game.
I don't think, I just don't think KJ Jefferson really has been good since he had Traylon Burks. Like, I don't think this Arkansas.
We're seeing more and more just the magnitude of how good that kid was. Reason why he's such a high draft pick, because he carried KJ. KJ was getting tons of draft attention before that, and now it's like he's gonna fly off people's boards.
He might not even he might be a 6th or 7th round guy just because 6'4", 250 with pretty decent open field ability. I don't think his arm is the greatest.
This guy could turn into a tight end.
Yeah. We actually talked about that legitimately.
Sorry, KJ Jefferson, but we're just being.
I mean, that's not even that's not a terrible take though. KJ Jefferson could be gross at tight end, 6'4", 250. He could be a pro somewhere.
There, he'd block, dude. That guy would probably be a great run blocker.
Yeah, he'd probably be great in an open seam too. Because I mean, if he can get downhill, it's pretty much over, and he's kind of elusive too for his size. So,
I agree. All right. Upset pick number 2. This one is, I wouldn't say as bold, but it's out there. Hold on, let me get to it. Why am I blanking on what I was picking? Mizzou over Kansas State.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm firm on this one because Kansas State, they're ranked 15. Walker Howard, I guess you could say, is,
Walker Howard's good, but there's not. I'll kind of butt in on you with this. Not that I'm picking Kansas State over Missouri, but Walker Howard, he had pretty good receiving threats last year. Malik Knowles, and he had Deuce Vaughn. Those guys are gone. Their defense is not as good either. They lost Bradson, Felix as Absduki, Zoma or something. I don't know. It's a tough last name to pronounce. Don't be hating. You can't even probably pronounce it either. So
not without phonetic spelling.
Yeah.
But I agree. And that's the exact point I was just about to hit on. Kansas State fans are going to realize how important. I mean, I know so many of them know this, but Deuce Vaughn was so impactful to building this brand. He was the reason. I will say this on air and not back down one bit. He's the sole reason why they won the Big 12.
Yeah. I mean, Walker Howard, he only played half the season. Yes, he was the quarterback in that championship game, but Martinez still led them to wins. I think Knowles was pretty impactful. There's another receiver on there that I don't think they didn't have a great return on the offensive side in returning talent. And Mizzou's quarterback Brady Cook, he's been here for a while. They've been able to win some games under him too. Obviously, they lost their best receiving threat to Georgia, Dominic Lovett. But this team, they're able to do things. They're an SEC team. They've kind of been on the trend up every season, or at least
a team that's given. This is the Nebraskas of the Big Ten or the Illinois of the Big Ten. This is a team that walks into games that they have no part of being a part of, and they ruffle feathers, man. And that's what they're going to do in this game. And I think they're going to come out and they're going to ruffle feathers bad. They're going to expose a lot of things. It's the defense of Kansas State that's going to get exposed more than this offense. I think this offense will put up points, but I think Mizzou's does too. And Mizzou's does it more willingly and at will more because of the holes in this Kansas State defense.
I don't think yeah, Kansas State's defense has not been tested yet either whatsoever. Like Troy was a great defensive team in the Sun Belt last year. Obviously, Kansas State put up 42 on them, but I mean Troy's offense wasn't anything much last year.
No.
Like they solely won on defense in the Sun Belt last year. I mean, yeah, they played Southeast Missouri State, I believe, their first week. So this is going to be a good test. I think they get. I don't think they get tested next week. I don't know what Rice Plumlee's status is, but like in the Big 12, I mean, it's a bunch of offensive juggernauts in that league, and it's going to continue to be. They're probably going to be one of the better teams in the Big 12. Once Texas and Oklahoma leave, but I mean, there's other teams coming in there. Utah's coming in, Colorado's coming in. Like, I mean, Utah's not necessarily the greatest offensive threat. Arizona and Arizona State, I believe, are joining the league as well. So it's a lot of things,
Mm-hmm.
And I think Kansas State, like, they're definitely doing a lot better than what people anticipated from coming into this season. They weren't really on my radar as like a top 25 team, and maybe they don't finish that way. But
I think that the AP top 25 had to, give them the nod and basically throw them in those rankings until they proved otherwise, because they did win the Big 12. Like, that is something that.
Yeah, and the Big 12 was probably the third best conference last year too. So
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
My second upset pick, kind of lame to some people maybe, but I got Army over UTSA. UTSA has not looked good this season. I'm pretty sure like Frank Harris has not been this like, he's been on some draft boards and people thought like maybe if UTSA goes like 11-1, 10-2, he wins the Heisman maybe, but loses his best receiving threat in Zachary Franklin to Ole Miss. They've looked rough offensively, only scoring 14 points against Houston and then 20 against Texas State. Army's not that much less of a caliber of a team than either of those teams.
Army has actually put a lot of teams,
And I don't know how UTSA's looked okay defensively, but I think this Army team, like if they could get, obviously they're the boring triple option team, like, and no one's going to really want to watch this game on a Friday night, but,
right, but it's, I think it's such a lock.
Yeah. I think UTSA is just, I don't know why they've proven no reason why they should be favored by 8.5. And I think it's just because Army did lose in their first week. I just saw who they lost to and drawing a blank on it already. But no, I think that UTSA is not that team that they've been the past two seasons. They lost to UL Monroe. Ooh, is that a sign for Texas A&M? No, I'm just kidding. Hey, if Texas A&M loses to UL Monroe this weekend, you heard it here first. But no, in all seriousness, I mean, another Academy team, Navy's giving Memphis some trouble right now, only trailing 7 to the Tigers. And Memphis is an okay football program. They do well in the American. But no, Army, like, it's not so much that I think Army's good. I just think UTSA is way less superior in talent than what they've been the last 2 years. And Franklin hasn't played for Ole Miss. Like, I can't wait to see Dart when he gets another one of those weapons out there as well.
It's gonna be fun to watch. We keep talking about it week in, week out. Ole Miss, keep on that watch. Jackson Dart is so legit. He's gonna fly up draft boards. He's gonna put this whole country on notice as the season progresses. I am telling it. You heard that here on this podcast from both of us. Any other story? I'm trying to think. What else?
You want to see? I kind of want to talk about something. So the 4:00 game on Fox, Ohio State versus Western Kentucky. A point that I really want to bring out is Ohio State's two first opponents, Indiana and Youngstown State. They don't throw the ball. Indiana didn't throw the ball that much, and Youngstown State, they just don't have the talent to really throw the ball against Ohio State. Western Kentucky, if you know who Bailey Zappi is, broke Joe Burrow's records, and then if you know who Austin Reed is, he's a guy that can sling it, man. He entered he came from a Division II college, transferred to Western Kentucky, entered the transfer portal this season, and was like, "Hey, I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna go be a hilltopper once again." And I mean, they have receiving weapons on this team too, and I'm kind of intrigued almost as if how good is this Ohio State's pass defense? They haven't been tested
Yeah,
whatsoever. And that was something that
I
they
mean,
kind of struggled with last year. I mean, when you let JJ McCarthy have his career game against your defense, that's not like, I mean, I can even remember the Penn State game last year too. Like Parker Washington and Sean Clifford were able to hook up so much last year
oh
because
yeah, Lathan Ransom, man, he's in well-known name in college football, and it's not for a good reason.
yeah, like,
Martinez, not a good name.
yeah,
Like,
it's just, it's almost, like, obviously I think Ohio State wins. Hopefully, I don't think Western Kentucky's defense is that strong. So maybe McCord's able to kind of keep things rolling with Harrison at least. Maybe get the other guys involved too. But
just gonna say maybe we see a little Devin Brown because it is
they
next.
no McCord. Ryan Day has said McCord has the job sealed. He is QB1. So there's no more.
You you can only hope for a program like that he doesn't have to eat those words after this week, because especially after next week, because we'll get
Yeah,
into that.
yeah.
We'll get into
Well,
that. We'll
I
get
think
into that.
I
I'm
think
gonna
an
keep my
interesting
mouth shut.
I think an interesting game also this weekend. Oregon State versus San Diego State, two kind of like defensive, you know, oriented teams. That's kind of like their team identity. But I mean, obviously Oregon State with DJ, like that team. Like I kind of want to just see how good Oregon State plays against San Diego State, because I think that'll be a really good test to see
Or
like,
I
how
think
good. Because San
yeah.
Diego State's defense, like they are very solid every year, and that's why they're very competitive in the Mountain
Yeah.
West. So
Yes.
see
Yes,
what.
Texas sent a bunch of guys to the NFL in the
So
last 4 years. But yeah, I mean, I love Oregon State. They are my dark horse Pac-12 champs. You heard that here first too. But I
yep.
think I think the game that I almost did it. We talked about this the show. I almost did this. I almost said the Cox are going to beat the Dogs, and I'll give you only one reason and one reason only. Rattler just has this weird thing when the lights are bright, very bright. The kid just he shows up. He
Too
I
bad it's at 3:30 in the afternoon.
Too bad it's at 3:30, and that's
No, but I mean, I get where you're coming from as that. I don't know. Do we know the status on Wells? Is he
mm,
playing? Because
I think so. I think so. But either way, when you have a coach like Kirby Smart pointing out in a press conference when he didn't really have to how good Rattler is, how elite of an arm talent he is, it just shows that he is on the forefront. Obviously, he is quarterback one of this team. He's having a great start to the season. I'm pretty sure he's almost done for 700 yards. Um, this kid is something to worry about. He showed that against Tennessee. He showed that against Clemson. I don't know. I don't know. I think he performs better than Carson Beck. I'll
yeah,
make a
I
prediction.
I just the only problem with South Carolina is their run game has been very bad to start out, and their leading
Yeah,
rusher on their team has
Joyner's got maybe. I don't think he's got under.
65 yards.
Jeez,
Yeah,
probably
that's
like 25 carries.
yeah. So I mean, literally all Georgia's gonna have to do is put a spy on Rattler. Not you might not even have to do that. They're just gonna sit back, play coverage, and their defense is more than good enough to stop that
It's
running
gonna be a
attack.
game where they're gonna run some schemes that they really only have to throw out for a team like this, and it's only gonna make the defense better. But yeah, it's
I'll take
I don't
South
know.
Carolina's defense. Like they can't really generate pressure. They're not great in the defensive back department. Like it's just not it's very unfavorable, but I mean crazier things happen in college football. So I'm kind of excited to see Syracuse versus Purdue, Carson Schrader or yeah, is it Garrett? Oh Jesus. I'm getting my names confused. Garrett Schrader and then Hudson Card. Okay. Yeah. These two quarterbacks pretty solid. I really liked Syracuse last year, obviously with Schrader and Tucker. Like that was a great backfield to watch. And this game was very entertaining last year too. If you don't remember, it came down to the wire. I think Purdue, like this would be a good win for
Just
Ryan Walters if
win.
you were able to get a win against a Power Five team. And Syracuse is a solid football program. They're always in bowl contention. Like they were pretty good last year too. They ended up playing, I
Good,
think.
man. I mean, this is a team. How far did they take that undefeated season? Was it all the way to Clemson? Wait, didn't
Ah,
they beat Clemson?
did
Am
they beat
I dumb?
Clemson? No, they didn't beat. I don't think they beat Clemson last year.
Hold
Maybe
on,
they
hold
did.
on. I have this weird feeling that they did though. Clemson.
I think that game was close, but I think Will Shipley ended up like running his mind off or something like that.
No surprise there. It's the only reason why that team's still relevant.
Klubnik
Um,
did it looked good in the second half, you
he
know.
won 27. You're right. You're right.
Yeah, it was a very down. It was very
Yeah, Shipley ran for 170 on
yeah,
27.
yeah. I actually, I
He
pretty
did through
deep.
two picks.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of Clemson, they play FAU. Let's see what Tom Herman and Casey Thompson, what the kind of threat they pose to Clemson. Because Clemson, they obviously they beat Charleston Southern by a lot, but they were down in that game for more than they should have been. And I think I don't know. I don't think Florida Atlantic's got the talent all around to really put up a win, but I think they could get tested a little. I think Clemson could get tested a little bit.
Yeah. Weird side note, but isn't it crazy that Shadur is supposed to be playing? If Dion never came into the head coaching or the coaching world in college football, that is where Shadur, I'm pretty sure, was committed to out of high school.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm
if
almost
Clemson had Shador Sanders right now, oh my gosh.
if anybody had Shadur Sanders, man. He is at that
If
level now.
Alabama had Shador Sanders, oh boy.
It'd be
Okay.
over.
Yeah.
Well,
No. I think it'd be over because that means
that's true. Yeah, I think Shadur really does make anybody better around him.
Dion
Like,
to Alabama when Nick Saban retires. You heard it here first.
what? What did you say?
I'm just kidding.
Oh,
I mean,
God.
that might not be out of the realm of possibilities, though. Like to be honest. Yeah. I mean, speaking
Only
of,
other
I mean,
game.
I'm very excited to see what Colorado does against Colorado State. Washington State was able to put up 50 on Colorado State. I kind of want to see just
Colorado
how.
State's coach is running his mouth.
Yeah, I
Comment
could see.
earlier was, my parents taught me to take my hat and sunglasses off when talking to adults. Like, do you know who you're talking to? You are talking to a Hall of Famer, and you're going to put that type of disrespect out with that roster? You are just, oh, man.
Yeah.
RIP to that guy, dude.
Hey,
You are a
if you
walking meme.
take all the player props over on on Shador Sanders, that's all I gotta
Take it
say.
all. Yeah, dude. When Shadur's dad, when prime time gets talked about, man, Shadur takes that stuff so personally.
I mean,
He
they
puts
took
it in a different gear.
they're looking to take everything personally. If you because I'm pretty sure
Oh, they got respect, man.
I think Shador was I think something about a Nebraska camp and it was like between him and three players and they said like Shador is just like not good enough or something.
They said Shadur wasn't good enough at the camp, but when he showed up to the camp and he was throwing around, nobody had their eyes on him. Nobody was even paying attention to the kid because they just didn't want to deal with the animosity of, you know, Dion and all that crap. But
Dion
even
ain't LeVar Ball, dude. His
no, this kid has this guy has everything to back it up, man. This is even LeVar Ball. I mean, LeVar Ball is an annoying personality, but
I mean,
yeah,
but he put two of his kids in the league though, still. So
exactly. And
and
two,
Leangelo, I think Leangelo just was never that talented to begin with. So
Angelo was a product of his dad.
yeah.
But what was I? Where was I going with this? Oh, yeah, and then the Nebraska thing on the 50-yard line when they were on the on the Buffalo, and freaking, oh my gosh, dude, that was disrespectful as
Yeah,
heck.
and I think like I said in the reaction show on Tuesday, they didn't play their best game and they still looked damn good.
Like, exactly, and that was what we
And
were missing.
Nebraska, I don't believe is that like I don't think they're great. I don't think they're going to compete in the
No, I
Big Ten
think this team will
West.
come out of this though, and show the country like, oh yeah, like that was actually so super impressive of what Colorado did because, yeah, like you said, we wanted to see what their worst game was going to look like. And in my opinion,
And
I think
it's still ending up in a 22-point win against a Power 5 team that people
yeah,
thought they were going to lose that game going into this season.
they were exactly this. Mind you, before that TCU game, Nebraska was 3-point favorites. I'm pretty sure Colorado
Yeah.
before the
Yeah.
game
I
was
think before the TCU game, Nebraska was 3-point favorites.
ridiculous. The last game I would like to talk about this week a little bit is the game that actually you almost threw out, and that was Illinois Penn
Penn
State.
State. Yeah. I don't know, man. I think this is a great test for Drew Aller. I think at the end of the day, and I think it also,
Walking to Memorial Stadium, man, that's not an easy place to play.
yeah. And I mean, Illinois does not have the offensive weapons that they had last year. They lose, but I think Altmaier is a pretty solid quarterback. And I think that, I mean, Penn State's defensive back room, probably one of the better ones in the country. So, but all it is, all it takes, man, is just one. It takes one game to have a slip up, and I mean, Penn State's been pretty successful. Like if you remember that 9 overtime game 2 seasons ago against Penn State versus Illinois, where Illinois ended up pulling out with
Was
an
that with what former Michigan quarterback was the quarterback of
quarterback of Illinois.
Hold on.
I thought it was Tommy DeVito, but
Yep. You're breaking a little bit.
oh, there we go. I think we're back.
Yeah, we're good.
All right. Who'd you say it was? I'm pretty sure it was Tommy DeVito still, but
You're breaking up. No.
hello?
Little connection issues.
We gotta love the connection difficulties during a recording. Uh, hello? Sorry about the uninterrupted ending. It was it's kind of a technical error, having some connection issues. But thank you for tuning into the episode. Make sure to follow us on all of our socials at Engage a Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, X if you want to call it that, and TikTok. So yeah, thank you for listening. Check in next week to see our reactions, and then obviously with week 4 coming around the corner, it's going to be an interesting week, man. Thank you for watching.